let's talk about another big, huge problem in the world. And I might even add in the church, Jesse, this child trafficking. We've caught religious priests and nuns involved in this trafficking. This is sick. But this is an article, Sound of Freedom movie. Producer tells Steve Bannon he put his life on pause to help in trafficking. He's a good friend of the show, a friend of ours. And actually, we had, Jesse, you had a lot to do with him educating him, and Fulton Sheen did too, on the faith. So let's get into that.
Eduardo Verástegui, a Catholic actor and producer, believes that if everyone knows what's going on in terms of child trafficking, could be halted. But just a lot of people aren't aware of how widespread this is.
Sick.
And so he was on the War Room recently with Steve Bannon. And so in an interview with former Trump advisor Steve Bannon on Steve Bannon's War Room, Eduardo Verástegui, the Catholic actor and movie producer, he told a story of how he resolved to put his entire life on pause to help end human trafficking by producing the upcoming film Sound of Freedom, which exposes this, by the way, Terry. It exposes.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get heck. Oh man, he
already told me that he walks around with bodyguards, armed bodyguards. He's been threatened. His life has been threatened by very powerful people around the world. Powerful.
Yeah, of
so
course.
He walks around with armed security constantly. By the way, the protagonist, the main actor of the movie, is actor Jim Caviezel.
God love him.
And so this movie, I'm telling you, it's second to none. I've already seen the preview of it.
Wow.
So I'll give you the gist of what Eduardo said here.
Yeah.
He said that he was approached. He's made several movies, Little Boy, Ballad. He's made some very good movies, but he was approached by a gentleman by the name of Tim Ballard. Mm-hmm. And this is what kind of flipped Eduardo to really put his entire life on hold and follow up on this. So after he made The Little Boy, again, he was approached by this gentleman by the name of Tim Ballard. And they told Eduardo about Tim Ballard. He has an organization called Operation Underground Railroad. Mm-hmm. He's the founder, Tim Ballard, and his team. And Eduardo learned about their undercover work across the globe to rescue kidnapped and sexually exploited children.
Wow.
So Eduardo, when he heard the story, he goes, man, I got to meet this guy. And so he met Tim Ballard, and Tim Ballard told Eduardo, he said, it's very sad how widespread this problem is, but it's a worldwide problem, this child sex trafficking. And Eduardo says it was very clear to me what I had to do.
Yep.
I had to pause my entire life to end child trafficking. And he says, he goes up, and this guy's life and this movie will be a weapon of mass instruction and inspiration. It's a masterpiece. It's like The Passion. I'm telling you, Terry, it's right up there with it.
Can't wait to see it.
And so Tim Ballard talks about his most dangerous rescue mission over in Cartagena in Colombia. And the movie is about the way this man, Tim Ballard, he left the federal government. He had a very good job with the federal government, but he had a heart to save children from child sex trafficking. And so he's left his employment with a very steady employment with the federal government. He's a Mormon, father of 6 children. And he wants now to dedicate his entire life to just, he started basically a group of men, ex-military, ex-law enforcement. And they're like a mercenary group.
Awesome.
And all they do is they're connected with law enforcement all over the world, mostly in South America where this is being done. And they're told where a pimp is, somebody like Epstein, they'll tell them exactly the location of a place where a lot of kids are being they were kidnapped and being sexually exploited. And so he'll go out there and do rescue missions. Eduardo says, after 8 years of working on this film, Sound of Freedom, he says, I thought its release would be a no-brainer because it's about a cause that should unite everybody. I mean, saving children as young as 3 and 5 who are being raped 15 times a day. Oh. So Eduardo said when he finished the movie, they pitched it first to Netflix. Netflix says, nope, don't want nothing to do with it. They pitched it to Amazon. Amazon said, nope, we don't want nothing to do with it. And at first, Eduardo was baffled that they would refuse to host the film. And he probably said, well, maybe it's simply due to a lack of objectivity about my own production. Maybe it's not that good. But then he noticed that when he started showing the film to thousands of people, pre-screening it around the country, Mexico and the United States, people were responding with tears and standing ovations. And he goes, wait a minute. I thought something's going on. Something's really weird here. And then I thought, of course, Netflix and Amazon and others, they're blocking this film. You know why?
Of course, money.
Because this crime is everywhere.
Exactly.
And who knows, Terry, they're probably part of it.
Of course they are. Jesse, this is so prevalent all over the world. It's bigger than the drug industry on the black market. This is huge. And you know what drives it, Jesse? In my opinion, pornography.
Yeah, they're being...
No, it does. When you promote pornography, you're building up a demand for child pornography. And then this is, trafficking for them.
Jim Caviezel's the main protagonist. He plays Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard is a man of goodwill who's dedicated his entire life. He's left his well-paying job with the federal government to start basically an organization to go out and save children from sex traffickers, or what we would call in the streets of Los Angeles, pimps.
Yep.
That's what they are. Epstein, these are high-level pimps. So Eduardo, when he was, he says, because he lectured us here in Arizona on the movie, he said that the United States, this is embarrassing, the United States is the number one consumer of child sex.
And who produces the most?
And he says, and guess what?
Yep.
Mexico is the number one provider.
I would have never thought that,
sex.
Jesse. That surprised me when I read that.
No, because the cartels have taken it over.
Drugs and sex.
The Mexican cartels, who are Satanists, whose god is Baphomet, the demon god of sex trafficking and sex and child sacrifice.
Makes sense.
That's who they worship.
Yep.
And so the Satanists in Mexico, which are a sizable, powerful number, they're the ones that are the number one providers. They surpass Thailand and all these other countries where, the rich and famous used to go over, to Asia and Thailand specifically when they wanted to have sex with children. Okay. Now they're going to Mexico now. Eduardo says that if everybody knew what was going on, child trafficking could be halted. That's why he made the movie.
Right.
And according to official statistics, Eduardo says 47 children disappear daily in Mexico alone, and he believes the real numbers are 3 times that amount. Eduardo, who's an expert in this field because he's been studying it for 7 years, and he's had access to Tim Ballard, who they're good friends now. Eduardo says, if we don't do something now, the pain of these children will reach out to all of us. Yes. And then we will be the ones who will be a living nightmare. He says, we have to do something. Whatever is in your hands, Eduardo said, exhorting his listeners, he says, we all can act according to our different talents.
Yep.
He said, ask God, how can I help stop child trafficking? Tell God that I'm an instrument. What can I do to end this? So he's calling all of us. All of us have to do something, even if it's prayer, something. Eduardo says, because if this was your child, you would hope that the whole world would stop everything they're doing so they can help you find your child. Let's do the same thing for children of other people. So the Sound of Freedom will be released in 1,200 movie theaters across America on July 4th. And that was a miracle in itself, Terry, because I'm telling you, this Hollywood is involved in this whole child molestation.
Oh, yeah.
Child sex trafficking. And so for him to be able to get it in 1,200 theaters to open up, that was an act of God.
Absolutely. And again, I want people to get the word out. July 4th is when it is coming out. Remember, this is the man who produced Bella. We all remember that. He's
phenomenal movie.
Yeah, phenomenal movie. Saved a lot of babies' lives. And now he's going right into this. And I'm going to make...
Terry, what about The Little Boy?
The Little Boy was a fantastic movie. That's also Eduardo. Here's what I want to make the connection. not only is pornography the tie-in, drugs, abortion, they all go together. And so if we can stop, the pornography, the killing of innocent babies, the demand for children for pornography's sake will cease, because if there's no demand for it. So we need to get rid of all these pornography, all these evils that are corrupting people. And the thing about it is, we don't want to talk about it. I don't like to talk about this. This is horrible. But you know what? I saw it on YouTube, a woman who had spent her mother would sell her to the pimps. And she saw horrible things. She saw little kids being murdered. She had to witness that. And now what does she do with the rest of her life? She's 44 years old. She's trying to stop it. She's doing everything in her power to stop what is going on with this trafficking, because she's been there. I have no idea, Jesse, how bad it is, but I can imagine how it's corrupting so many people's lives. And again, what about the people who are doing this? Jesse, that's a ticket for hell, baby. Come on, dude. There's got to be a really deep corner in hell for people like this.
That's right. And so again, The Sound of Freedom is going to be released July 4th.
Yep.
1,200 movie theaters across America.
Awesome.
Every Catholic and Protestant and person of goodwill should go watch the movie. We already bought tickets, me and my wife, for opening night. July 4th, Sound of Freedom is going to be released in 1,200 movie theaters across America. And the mission of this film is to spread worldwide awareness about the horrors of human trafficking. And if we're going to spread awareness, that means getting as many people as possible to go to the theater. So you can even go online now and start purchasing tickets for The Sound of Freedom. And if you want to see who this gentleman, Tim Ballard, is, to me, he's one of the bravest men. He's one of the bravest men in the world right now doing what he's doing. He left a well-paid job with the federal government to basically start an organization, a mercenary group, mercenary soldiers of guys that just spend their life. They find out where these kids are being trafficked, and they go out there and they do escapes. They do rescues. And so if you want to find out about Operation Underground Rescue, this organization that's involved in this, Tim Ballard's organization, his website is ourrescue.org, ourrescue.org. Also, what I want to just say about the movie The Sound of Freedom,
yes,
made by Catholic actor and director Eduardo Verástegui and Alejandro Monteverde, which is coming out, July 4th. It shows the diabolical world of adult and child sex trafficking. It shows how wicked and evil this world is. And here's some mind-blowing facts that I learned from Eduardo when he came down to Arizona at a special screening that he gave us. It was over in Tucson, Arizona, in fact. Carrie Lake was in the audience as well. He said, number one, Mexico is the largest exporter of child sex trafficking in the world.
Terrible.
Number two, the USA is the largest consumer of child sex trafficking.
Terrible.
Number three, 80% of women that come across the border are raped.
Ugh.
And after the women are raped, the Mexican cartels hang the underwear of the victim on a tree branch or bush. Many of my friends that live in Tucson tell me, Jess, when I look out my window, he says there are thousands and thousands of women's underwear hanging on trees in the deserts of the United States Southwest Territory in Arizona. Number four, human trafficking is an $150 billion business. You think our government isn't involved in this? You think Hollywood's not involved in this? Yeah. Let me give you the numbers. It's an $150 billion business. Yeah. And this movie is exposing that what Jeffrey Epstein was doing in his Epstein Island is truly, Terry, an international diabolical problem.
And Jesse, not only that, the one I saw also about this human trafficking even in Europe and the European countries, this woman was explaining all of these government officials were involved in this, and it was hush hush. She said people who have big names, they've been in government 50 years. You know anybody like that in America? I do. In other words, it's the governments worldwide that are involved in promoting this. This is way too big, Jesse, than anything that we know of. So we just have to pray, but also let's see what God's calling each one of us to do. When you see the movie, I'm sure it's going to convict many people to get involved in stopping this.
Yeah. And this is why, Terry, we need to secure our borders, because this is happening in the border states. This is where the transactions are being made. And it's interesting, even St. Gregory of Nyssa, this is one of the old church fathers. This goes back thousands of years. St. Gregory of Nyssa, look at what he says about borders. He says this, quote, "The devil is the one who removes the borders of nations," close quote.
Yep.
St. Gregory of Nyssa, I'm going to quote it again. "The devil is the one who removes the borders of nations," close quote.
Wow. Wow.
So it seems like the devil is working with the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because a border represents order and protection. So taking the border out represents disorder and being unprotected. And we know that a country, what makes a country a country? A country is defined by its borders, its language, and its culture.